So today we have some big news, both in and outside of the game, but let's start with inside the game. Valorant patch notes 8.01. Let's dive into it because it has more than you might think. So, first thing is Breeze. A-Hole is being reopened. I made a whole video about this. If you didn't watch it, I think that this is a very significant change to how the map will play out for quite a few different reasons. But yes, there you go. It is changing. But we also have agent updates, and prepare yourself for this. So, let's read this first. In the latter half of 2023, Skye became an increasingly dominant force within the initiator role and began to clearly overshadow her peers in pick rate both in solo queue and coordinated play. That's interesting that it says solo queue. Her core ability, Guiding Light, has been the main factor in her prominence, as it offers strong combat advantage, valuable recon, and provided Skye with the only recharging flash amongst the initiators. While we like Skye's position, having a mix of flash and recon and the diversity that can be brought to team comps, she lacked clear downsides to balance out this broad power. These changes are centered around pushing Skye to be more intentional with the Guiding Light. They should create a clear opportunity cost when taking Skye in comps, whilst also maintaining her uniquely powerful combination of combat advantage and recon within the initiator role. We hope this update will land Skye in a spot where she is still viable in solo queue and coordinated play, but give room for other flash agents to thrive. We'll be sure to keep a close eye on it. So, here's what they're doing, and this is shocking. Removing the recharge on the Guiding Light sharpens the decision point of when to commit one throughout the round and balances the power, providing both combat advantage and recon as a signature. This should create clear trade-offs with use cases like early round info gathering and push Skye to be more deliberate whilst maintaining her unique optionality. They have removed the recharge on the Guiding Light. I cannot believe they have done this. I cannot believe they have made this change. And let me explain why I am so shocked at this change, okay? Because here's the thing. This, to me, like when I first heard this, I thought that this was like a community patch note joke gone wrong. And the reason for that is often when you see, a random community member suggest a change to an agent, they often completely disregard the fact that different classes seemingly have identities. For instance, the Initiator class, all of their signature abilities regenerate, right? And that's why I love Gecko's design, particularly because it kind of took that idea and pushed it to a different new direction. I thought that was cool. And that's why I love Gecko. But this is crazy, because now Skye sticks out like a sore thumb, right? She doesn't follow that pattern, and it feels like a messy, clunky change, in my opinion, because of that. Because now you just have this agent who doesn't really fit the mold of what at least I thought was one of the Initiators' core identities, ever since they changed it way back in the day. Will it balance Skye? Will it make Skye worse? Yes, obviously. This is a mega change. This is a mega nerf to Skye. Like, this is the biggest nerf as you could really envisage them going for. And to me, honestly, this might be too much of a nerf. Did Skye need a nerf? Yeah, probably. Was it this? Not in my opinion. If they wanted to do this nerf way long ago, at the start of 2023, I probably would have been more okay with it. Because back then, the dog was better, the Seekers, I think, were only 7 cost back then, right? It probably would have made more sense for the agent overall. But you add in all the little nerfs they've done to Skye, since, and then this, what? Because the thing is with the Initiator class is it's not like the Duelist class, right? If a Jet and Raze got these kind of nerfs, I'd be like, good. Because the other Duelists are just so clearly worse than Jet and Raze. But the Initiator class, yes, Skye is very strong. But the other Initiators aren't bad. In fact, I would say all the other Initiators, are useful in their own ways and can find play, right? Like, they're all pretty good. And now, to me, Skye feels like maybe just worse than them. And I get that the Guiding Light was probably one of the strongest abilities in the game, so it makes sense somewhat. But this feels like such a heavy-handed change that I personally don't like it. Now, the good part about this change is that it might force a more interesting method to come out. Because here's the thing. Double controller with Skye was incredibly strong. And they have taken out one of the pillars of that. But the thing is, double controller with Viper will still be incredibly strong, right? Viper is still incredibly good. But now you don't have like a dominant Skye to kind of pair along with it and fix any weaknesses that you would have, right? Now when you play double control with Viper, there's going to be some weakness there, which is a good thing because it's still strong, but there's weakness. And so now you might see people pivot to a double initiator instead, right? And you might get some debate on some maps, right? Maybe some teams go double initiator, some go double controller and stick with it. You know, maybe some try double controller with a different initiator other than Skye. You know, you might get more variety in terms of things like that, which overall for the meta might be good. And that's good. But in my opinion, there was probably better ways of doing this, you know, without like really nerfing Skye. Because, I mean, this is a really big nerf. But there is actually more to this as well. So Skye's flash activating at the end of the duration pushes her to be more intentional when throwing fake flashes, whilst also making it easier for Skye to fly the guiding light to its max distance and still get its output. So basically, the Skye flash at the end of it will always go off now instead. Most of the time is probably a buff, particularly, you know, at lower ranks and stuff like that. Definitely a buff. There will be times, as they mentioned here, like when you throw a fake flash, that if you don't like kill them straight away, you know, you might flash yourself, which will be funny, but, you know, that might be a situation where it's a nerf. But on the whole, this is probably more of a buff and just makes her easier to use, which I'm ambivalent about, to be honest. And we also have a Seeker's change as well. So they're adding a yellow directional warning indicator for when a Seeker gets close to its target. So a tiny Skye nerf as well. Not the happiest, but we move on. ISO, we're updating ISO to push the agency and combat advantages that you get from the double tap. So the shootable orb duration has increased from 2 to 3 seconds. The initial buff and shield duration has increased as well to 20, and the shield width has been reduced. So I guess you are harder to hit when you have the shield as well. I mean, again, is this going to change ISO and make him meta? No. Are these good changes? Yeah. And we've reduced the cost of the contingency to better reflect the value we see it generating in the game. So, yeah, because it doesn't give you any value. This is the wall. For those of you who don't know the names of the abilities, like, it can now cost 200. Cool, again. I mean, have this cost 0 if you want to see, you know, reflect the value it generates in game. And raise you know what? I was really hoping that this was going to be like, oh, they, you know, really did a big nerf on Raze, right? They made the blast pack so that it only affects Raze, you know, only moves Raze, and Raze is the only one affected by it, and, you know, the nade doesn't go as far, and, you know, stuff like that. No. Audio for Raze traveling through the air with blast pack is now louder when she's traveling towards you. That's the kind of Raze nerfs we get, you know? Gen Raze, it's like, you know, oh, you know, we're changing the audio for your opponents when they're close. Skye, it's like, you know, you're dead. You are dead. We are sick of you, Skye. Raze, you're fine. It's not for me. And there's also some things here, you know, projectile jump throw normalization to make jump throw lineup behavior more consistently reproducible. I guess that's good. If you press the throw projectile input within 100 milliseconds of a jump start, the projectile will then consistently have the same amount of velocity. So good for Viper mains, I guess, and certain other agents, I guess. You know, this is good. Fixed a bug where the A-hole door was starting in the open position. So this was a bug this whole time. Door will start closed now, which with holes being, you know, open again, makes more sense in general. So that's good. But yeah, that's it. That's the patch notes. Not a fan of the Skye change personally, but now let's just quickly touch on the other news as well. And the other news is this, that Riot is doing a round of layoffs, about 530 roles globally, which is around 11% of Rioters. Now, I'm no expert in these kind of things and business and all of that kind of thing. I'm not a businessman, so I'm not going to talk too much about this. It says the biggest impact to teams is outside of core development, which I assume maybe does include esports. So that's maybe not great. I'll leave a link in the description to this if you want to read it but I won't. And yeah, the future is bold in our commitment to our core live games, and Valorant is mentioned. So hey, at least that's good. Yeah, and our strategy will more tightly integrate esports, music, and entertainment with our games. Very vague statements, you know, the kind of corporate speak you're somewhat used to. Arcade Season 2 is on track for November 2024, though, so that's good. But I do just want to quickly talk about this because, and I know most of you won't care about this at all, but for those of you who know the TMV lore, Legends of Runeterra was actually my first YouTube channel was about that game, which for those of you who don't know is Riot's card game, like Magic the Gathering, but Riot, and has, you know, all the League of Legends characters in it. And it's a great game. And essentially in here, they're basically saying that, you know, this is essentially the first stop to somewhat killing the game. And I'm sure any of you who have had a game, you know, that you care about a lot kind of die, it really hurts. Especially a game that, like this for me, you know, is essentially the basis of why this channel exists started with that game. You know, so many of the things that I learned from doing that, I applied to this, and, you know, it became my job. So Runeterra holds a deep place within my heart, and it's very sad to, you know, basically see it die in front of me. Not great, but yeah, Riot going through layoffs, and of course we have already seen some of the impacts of this as well. You know, people have brought up the schedule. There's not a lot of games. Why is there not a lot of games? Well, maybe it's because you need to run a broadcast and that costs money to do if you have more games, right? Why is Masters Madrid only 8 teams? Money? Who knows?